All right, let's just jump right in. If you're a chess player hanging around that 1900 rating, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You've put in the work, you've climbed up from the beginning, you've grinded those tactics, and then bam, you hit a wall. You're just stuck. Well, in this explainer, we are going to get into what it really takes to smash through that plateau and finally start thinking and playing like a master.
So what is it? What's the secret sauce that separates a 1900 player from a master? I mean, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's the one that haunts you after a tough game. You know, the ones where you felt so close, but that next level just seems out of reach. But here's the thing, and this is the good news. The answer isn't just do more puzzles. No way. The real difference is way deeper, but it's also something you can actually tangibly improve.
And this is what we call the 1900 plateau. It's this incredibly frustrating spot where all your old tricks, all the habits that got you this far, they just stop working as well. You get less and less back for your effort. You know, just playing more blitz, doing more random puzzles, it's just not going to cut it anymore. The skills that got you here are not the skills that will get you there.
This is the absolute core idea you have to internalize. Your journey from 1900 to 2000 and beyond, it becomes a game of quality, not quantity. It's a total shift in how you even approach chess improvement, from the way you look at your mistakes, all the way to how you structure your study time.
Okay, so the very first step we need to take isn't even on the chessboard. It's inside your own head. See, before you can fix the bad moves you make in a game, you got to fix the faulty thinking process that's causing them in the first place. And this is where we get into this really cool concept, the art of metacognition, or, simply thinking about your thinking.
So what does that actually mean? Well, think of it like becoming a detective investigating your own mind. You're not just looking at what move you played anymore. You're digging deep into the why. What was I thinking right then? What did I calculate? What did I miss? This kind of honest self-reflection, it's the biggest and most important step you can take towards mastery.
And here's how you can actually start doing it. After a game, seriously, ask yourself these kinds of questions. Do you tend to blunder when you're short on time? Is there a certain kind of tactical pattern, like a fork, that you just seem to miss over and over again? Do you get lost in quiet positional games? And here's the key. You gotta write it down. Keep a notebook. Identifying these patterns is the only way you can ever hope to fix them.
This right here, this is the heart of it all. Any chess engine can tell you in half a second that a move was a mistake. That's the easy part. But only you can figure out the broken thought process that led you to play it. That is where the learning actually happens.
And look, we've all been there. It is so easy to fall into this shallow analysis trap. The game ends, what do? You flip on the engine, you see that big dip in the eval bar, you go, oh, whoops, that was a blunder, and then you just move on. That's the trap. The real key, the deep work, is to fight that instinct. Before you even look at the engine, analyze your own thinking. Say it out loud. I played this move because, and only then, after you've done that hard work, do you bring in the engine. Think of it less like a judge and more like a sparring partner who's there to help you check your own work. So once you've started sharpening up that thought process, it's time to bring that new focus to the board itself. We have to deepen our understanding of what's actually going on across the 64 squares. And that means moving past just seeing tactics and into the real, beating heart of chess, positional play.
These right here, these are the concepts that separate the club players from the masters. Now, at the 1900 level, you probably know what these terms mean, but a master feels them. It's intuitive. They see how all these little pieces, a weak square here, an open file there, connect to form a long-term plan that just slowly but surely squeezes the life out of an opponent's position even when there's no big tactic on the board.
This needs to become your new mantra whenever you're studying a grandmaster game. Don't just be a spectator clicking through the moves. No, you gotta stop and think. Really try to crawl inside the master's head. Why that rook move? What's the deep, long-term idea behind that quiet little pawn push? That's what active learning looks like. Now, working hand in hand with that deep positional sense is just raw calculation skill. I mean, it's one thing to know your knight would be a monster on that outpost square. It's a whole other thing to accurately calculate the 5-move sequence to get it there, all while dodging every single threat your opponent can throw at you. That's a huge differentiator. And that brings us to the part of the game that decides almost everything at these higher levels, the end game. Look,
Endgames are always important, sure, but their importance just skyrockets once you get past 1900. So many games at this level are won or lost purely because one player had better endgame technique. It's that simple.
You know, in the endgame, you just can't fake it. You can't just wing it. You absolutely have to know these fundamental concepts stone cold. This isn't about general feeling or intuition. It's about concrete, hard and fast knowledge. Mastering these techniques is what gives you the confidence to turn a tiny, tiny edge into a win.
Okay, so we've talked about the mental game, the on-the-board skills. Now let's get super practical. How do you actually build a system for yourself? You know, a routine that puts all this stuff into practice and actually guarantees you're going to make progress.
Let's talk about openings for a second. It's so tempting to get lost memorizing 20 moves of theory in 10 different variations, right? But then your opponent plays something you've never seen on move 6 and you totally panic. The goal is not to become a walking chess database. It's to understand the ideas behind your openings. Learn the typical plans, the common pawn structures. That kind of deep understanding is so much more powerful than just memorizing moves.
Here it is. This is your blueprint. And notice what's at the top. Long games, classical chess. You need time to actually think, to make mistakes, to create something that's worth analyzing. And then you do that deep, serious analysis we talked about. You back it up with puzzles that are targeted at your specific weaknesses, not just random ones. And finally, you have to test it all in the fire of real competition.
Believe it or not, the classic chess books are still one of the best tools out there. But here's the catch. You have to study them actively. Don't just read them like a novel on the couch. Get a real board out, play through the moves, and before you read what the master played, cover up the page and try to figure it out for yourself. You have to really wrestle with the material.
And last but not least, don't try to do it all alone. Seriously, consider getting some help. A coach, or even just a strong study partner, can see things that are completely invisible to you. Why? Because they don't have that emotional attachment to your moves. They can spot those little flawed habits in your thinking that you can't. This can be an incredible shortcut to breaking through a plateau that just won't budge.
Okay, so after all this hard work, after all this new thinking, what's it actually like on the other side? What's the real, tangible difference you're going to feel in your own games once you finally break through that ceiling?
This table pretty much says it all. The whole thing is a transformation. You go from just knowing the definitions of positional ideas to having this deep, almost unconscious feel for them. Your calculation goes from being shaky and error-prone to being consistent and reliable. And maybe the biggest thing of all is your decision-making. You go from agonizing over choices to just confidently finding the best practical way forward in any kind of position.
So, we'll leave you with this one final thought. Imagine it. Your next game is finished. You just shook your opponent's hand. Now what? What's your very first move after the game? Are you going to instantly hit that new game button or fire up the engine to see the blunders? Or are you going to take a breath, close your eyes for a second, and start the real work by asking yourself, okay, what was I actually thinking? Because your answer to that question, that's what's going to define your entire journey from here.